Can We Afford the Green New Deal? By Yeva Nersisyan and Randall Wray. Taxes on wages. Deferred consumption. Taxes on consumption and wages, on the other hand, are highly effective in lowering demand, but they will be neither politically popular nor especially fair given the stagnant wages for the last 50 years. Workers have been paying for neoliberalism for 2 generations. We cannot ask them to pay more to reverse the damages done. We thus propose a policy along the lines of Keynes's recommendation to pay for World War II, applying it to the Green New Deal war to save the planet. To reduce resource consumption, we would need targeted taxes that would be effective in lowering aggregate demand. We need to reduce consumption demand by the less fortunate bottom 90% of Americans. However, this should be imposed in a progressive manner, with exemptions for the lowest income earners, and any reduction of consumption should only be temporary and accompanied by a clear promise of a better standard of living later. Senator Sanders has formulated a plan to pay for Medicare for All, proposing a supplemental payroll tax on employers equal to an additional 6.2% of payroll, plus an additional payroll tax surcharge on employees of 2.2%, plus an array of other progressive taxes that he has projected would raise $1.4 trillion annually. Footnote 19. He includes progressive income tax rates, taxing capital gains and dividends at the same rate as income from work, limiting tax deductions for the rich, adjusting the estate tax, and savings from health tax expenditures. His total tax take is estimated at nearly $1.4 trillion annually. We are not including the other tax changes here, nor are we adopting the tax increase to raise revenues to pay for Medicare for All. The purpose is to release resources. In this particular case, it is to postpone consumption by deferring income. End footnote. While we do not agree with his goal of raising revenue to pay for programs, we follow his lead in designing a method of reducing consumption to alleviate inflationary pressure. To allay fears of inflation, we propose to repurpose the payroll tax part of Senator Sanders' proposal. We would impose an average surcharge of 4.6% on the employee portion of the payroll tax. This could be applied in a progressive manner, with a lower surcharge on lower wages, and with the lowest wages exempt. The goal is not to raise funds to pay for benefits, but rather to defer employee compensation, based on Keynes's plan for World War II. In this case, the purpose of the tax is to temporarily reduce workers' compensation. Over time, Social Security benefits would be raised to compensate workers for their sacrifice during the implementation of the Green New Deal projects that are required to reverse climate change. The payroll tax surcharge on workers could be phased out in the future as the Green New Deal's resource demands decline and as the nation's productive capacity increases. As Keynes recommended, the deferred compensation given as a boost to Social Security benefits can be allocated in a progressive manner, with larger supplements paid to those currently receiving the lowest retirement benefits, tapering down for those earning the highest. Also, as Keynes recommended, the payroll surcharge, similar to his capital levy, would be imposed as soon as the Green New Deal begins, while the benefit supplements would be delayed until the inflation danger has passed. These surcharges paid by employees would also be phased out only after inflation pressures subside. If we presume that these surcharges will be levied on the hospital insurance portion, HI, of taxable payroll, which at about 45% of GDP is 25% larger than the Old Age Survivors and Disability Insurance (OASDI) payroll. They would remove about $400 billion of income annually, equal to 2% of GDP. Footnote 20. The logic behind applying them to HI rather than to OASDI is not only that the base is larger, but also that the tax is designed to offset some of the benefits of moving to a universal single payer. End footnote. Footnote 21. See SSA 2018 and CMS 2018. End footnote. We will add this as a net source of resources to offset Green New Deal requirements. The surcharge on payroll taxes acts like a sinking fund, not to be used to finance future Social Security or the expansion of Medicare spending to all, but to reduce aggregate demand, now on the promise that Social Security retirement will be boosted to as deferred compensation. Note that workers are generally better off with the single-payer plan, even with the payroll tax surcharge. Footnote 22. The median wage is about $32,000. The average annual premium for family coverage is over $19,000, of which about $13,000 is paid by the employer and $6,000 is paid by the employee. By contrast, the payroll tax surcharge would be $1,472 on the median worker's wage. End footnote. Lastly, we have not discussed imports as a source of resources to meet higher demand. We should not rely excessively on imports of the production needed for greening projects, solar panels, wind power equipment and electronic transportation, etc., at least to the extent that other countries are mobilizing to use their resources to fight climate change themselves. However, as employment rises to boost general consumption, at least some of that will be met by imported consumer goods. This is not necessarily something to be avoided, as many nations need to export consumer products to obtain dollar earnings. They need to import green technology. This will help to attenuate inflation pressure, as it has done over the past 2 decades. Footnote 23. This helps explain why the FAIR model's simulation of the Job Guarantee Program, see Wray et al. 2018, which boosted employment by 19 million, raised wages to or above $15 per hour, and increased annual GDP by $500 billion, projected almost no inflation pressure. End footnote.